So in this quick demo, I'm just going to show you how you can use Smart Learning Suite in order to do real-time collaboration with your students. Now, one of the pros of Smart Learning Suite is that we actually already have a premium subscription through our school. It's already prepaid for, and so we should really, take advantage of that opportunity. So if you don't already have an account, you can just sign up for free over here. It's pretty easy. You can sign in using your district email address or the schools.nyc.gov email address. I've already created an account, so once you've just created it, you can just sign in. And then once you sign in, you will be redirected to a dashboard. Now on your dashboard, you see a few different really important things. So first of all, you see your name, and this name is going to be what your students see when they enter your classroom. So they're going to see that you're listed as Miss Lee. And in addition, you have your class ID. So your class ID is really important, as this is the code that your students use in order to enter into whatever collaborative workspace you create. In addition, in order to create your collaborative workspace, you do this by adding an activity. And so there are a few different options for what you can do as an activity. What I like to do, and what I probably use the most, is this import resource option. When you're importing a resource, you can input either a Smart Notebook file if you have the Smart Notebook software on your computer. You can upload a PowerPoint, or you can upload a PDF file. I like using this option because I already have a lot of different lesson slides that I use with my students that I've already made and already put the time and effort into making. And so this is just one really easy way to use this platform without having to make anything new. So I can just click this, and then I can just pick a PDF or pick a PowerPoint that I want to use, and then it'll just upload it as a collaborative workspace that I can then use. In addition, you have this YouTube option. You can use it very similarly to how you would use Edpuzzle, where you can pause the video at certain points and add questions. You have this new page option that's kind of like a whiteboard, and then you have these pre-made activities that are made by SmartSuite that are supposed to be kind of game-based and more engaging for students than just notes. And these have been pretty good, and I think that they're really more so targeted towards younger grades. So once you've uploaded your activity, right, let's try out this demo lesson for us. I can just press start on that. And then in order to make sure that my students are entering into my classroom, what I can do is I can just press this people icon on the left, and then I just want to press this arrow over here, and it's going to give directions for my students to actually enter into this collaborative workspace. And so I'm connecting as a sample student on my account on my iPad. Right? And what's really cool about this platform is that any student who has a smartphone, so iPhone or Android, a tablet like an iPad, or a laptop or a computer, they can all access this, regardless of whatever device they have. It's really, really accessible, and they can interact with it regardless of whatever platform that they have. Another setting that you can see here when you press this people icon is this lesson pacing. And so I have it set as teacher. So that means that whenever I move to page 2, everyone moves to page 2. You can't go backward, you can't go forward without the teacher pacing the lesson and moving the slide forward or backward. This is really helpful whenever I'm delivering new content, in the case that I want to make sure that all of my students are on the same page. However, sometimes that may not be appropriate. Like, let's say that you're doing a student-led activity where students are trying to pace themselves throughout the lesson to kind of finish first, or look back on a previous example to help guide them for how they should do the next example, right? Then it would be helpful to set it as student paced, but for these purposes, I'm just going to set it as teacher paced. In addition, when you press this people icon, it will tell you whether or not your page is view only or if it's a different type of activity, right? So let's say that we're on the first page, right? This is telling me that it's view only. So that means that when my students are looking at this page, they themselves cannot annotate on it. They can't write on it. They can't highlight anything. They can't do anything on it other than look at it, right? And so let's say that you don't want it to be view only. You have a couple different options that I'm going to demo later on for how you can best use individual handout activity, and you can use the collaborative workspace activity. So right now I can also just see that my only student right now is a student named iPad. That's me on my iPad. And so I can move on to the next page by pressing this down arrow button. And so all my students will be on the second page now, right? And so let's say that I want them to see that I want to highlight or I want to highlight that there are only 3 specific transformations, right? Then if I highlight that, they will all be able to see that on their screens, right? I can also write something with the pen tool. So let's say that I want to write the number 3, then they would all be able to see that as well. Another thing that you can do is, in order to zoom in, like let's say that it's going to be easier for you to draw on this if you zoom in a little bit, you can go to the bottom left and you're going to see this plus sign over here. So when you press this plus sign, it just zooms in on whatever you want to zoom in on. When you zoom in on your screen, it's not going to zoom in on anyone else's screen, so that's just something to keep in mind. Now, let's say that you don't like any of the annotations that you did on this page and you're like, oh, I just want to get rid of all this. What you can do is actually just reset the page with this arrow button over here, and it will just get rid of all the annotations that you did, so you don't have to worry about trying to erase everything. So let's say that we get to a page where you actually want students to write and annotate and share their ideas with the other students in the class. So what you can do is just go back to this people icon, and you can change this to a collaborative workspace activity. Now it'll ask you for how many teams I would like. Because I only have 1 student in this classroom, I only have the option for everyone on 1 team. But you have more students in the class, then you have different options for how many teams you have. So you can actually have students be on separate teams where they can compete against each other. But for these purposes, everyone's on 1 team. And then because I'm on my laptop, it's actually pretty hard for me to write with this pen tool. So instead of doing that, and because my handwriting is really bad, I like using this text tool instead. So I can actually assign the first row in this table is going to be answered by my student Sean. My next student Amara will be answering the next row. And then my next student India will be answering the last row. And so I can just use this text tool to actually assign certain questions to certain students, and they will be able to then also annotate right over here saying we want to flip our figure, and we can create a reflected image, right? So when they type in flip, I'll be able to see that they wrote that. Another thing that they can do is, if you want to actually have India answer another question, like this other fill in the blank over here, instead of having to rewrite it, I can just press India's name, and then I can just click this little option over here to duplicate, and it'll make a copy. So one other option that you can do, let's say that you don't want students to all collaborate together on 1 page, you want students to actually try working on a problem on their own, like an independent practice, where you can kind of check their work. Something that you can do instead is if you go into the people icon, right? You can change this to an individual handout activity. And then students will have the option to start their handout on their screen. And then you can start seeing students' work and actually click on the student's name to see what progress they've made. So let's say that my student iPad has started making a graph. So I can click on iPad's name, and I can see the graph that they're starting to make. In addition, I can also add some comments. So say, where is your table of values for this graph? And then they can see it and then readjust accordingly. And then let's say that they're done with their work, then they can just press done on their screen, and then you'll be able to see a check mark next to their name saying that they've completed the assignment, and you can actually go back and grade it and put it in like Scheduler or whatever you need to. So hopefully this demo was helpful to you. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to help assist in navigating this platform.